Hello, and thanks for joining the Authors Guild today for an educational webinar on Amazon ads for traditionally published authors. We're going to learn the nuts, bolts, and caveats that any author should know before attempting a pay-per-click ad campaign, while exploring in particular what it means for those with traditionally published books. We have hosting today Jane Friedman, who, among other things, is publisher of The Hot Sheet, which is a highly informative source of publishing industry news and analysis. We love having Jane moderate panels for us at the Authors Guild because Jane's so good at making sense of the business side of writing and publishing, and that's what we're all about as well. And we're so happy to offer webinars such as this free to the public so that all writers can benefit. If you're not an Authors Guild member, please check out authorsguild.org to learn more about what we do. We review contracts, help with copyright issues, free speech, and a lot more. And AG members can find a discount code for the Hot Sheet in the member benefits section of our website. The Hot Sheet is at hotsheetpub.com. So thank you everyone for being here. We received a ton of questions in advance and we'll be answering those throughout the discussion. But you can use the Q&A box below if you have any additional questions for us. You can find automated captions by clicking on the subtitles button below. So now, thank you to our panel of authors and book marketing professionals for being here today to shed some light on Amazon ads and what it means for authors who are now able to spend money on them if they so choose. I'll turn it over to Jane Friedman now.
Thank you so much, Johnny. So I'm going to give some really quick introductions to for the folks who are with us today, and then I'm going to give them each an opportunity to expand on their experience with Amazon ads. Going in alpha order here, we've got Dave Chesson, who's the founder of kindlepreneur.com, a website devoted to teaching authors about book marketing. He's the creator of Publisher Rocket, a software that helps authors research better keywords and categories for their books. And you're going to be hearing about keywords a bit later. Jess Johns is Consumer Insight Manager at Ingram Content Group and has many years of experience in the industry. Michael Larun is author of over 60 science fiction and fantasy books and self-help books for writers, and he writes from the Great Plains of Iowa. Jenny Martz is a USA Today bestselling novelist. Her books range from Western romance to cozy mystery, but they all have the charm and appeal of quirky small-town life. And last but not least, we have Yuting Chi, who is Marketing Analytics Manager at Open Road Media. So, just to get to know you all a little bit better and your perspective on this issue, I just would like you to speak briefly for a minute or two about how or why you use Amazon ads or study them and the roles that you see them playing in book marketing. So going in alpha order again, we'll start with Dave.
Sure. Well, before Amazon ads started, I would usually get a book out and I would do all this marketing and do all this effort to kind of get the book out there in front of more people. And then the moment that I stopped or so, it would really drop off and then it would hit this low. Amazon ads kind of gave me an ability to keep book sales going as I start working on the next book. And it helped me to also improve on sales and improve my launch.
Yeah, so in my role at Ingram, one of the services that I help manage is our in-house marketing agency that works with client publishers on really performance marketing and sales growth campaigns. And what we are seeing is that as the Amazon advertising platform has expanded and as more sales are shifting online, the importance of really understanding the Amazon environment, Amazon search, how readers are looking for books becomes really important. And it's something like between 40 and 75% of product searches start in Amazon. And Amazon ads gives us a chance to really reach readers when they're shopping for books. And I think the more we can understand about that as publishers and as authors, the better experience hopefully we have for everybody.
Yeah, I can go next. I would say Amazon ads have been a game changer for me just in terms of growing my sales, but also getting data about where my book fits on the market. So you can reach a lot of people. And when I say if you do ads properly, tens of thousands, even if not more people in a very short amount of time. And that gives you feedback on how good your ad copy is, where your readers are coming from, what books they're clicking on before they come to your book. And that helps me figure out okay, here are the other titles that are comparable to mine that maybe I would have never have known about if Amazon hadn't served it. So it's a very, very good data discovery tool that gives me some tools to figure out how else I want to market my book as well. It's a very good starting point.
I love that. Hi, everybody. I'm Jenny Martz. I am a hybrid author. So I have 27 published books over the last 10 years, and they're about half and half of indie and traditional. So it's really exciting. You know, we've all seen a million changes with Amazon over the past, 10, 12, 15 years. And this is an exciting change. This is going to be really fun to see. I think for me, part of why I got into all the whole Amazon ad business is because as your backlist grows, there's always a lot of great excitement in advertising with the launch, which I think is going to be a great way to be able for traditional authors to be able to use this new thing is with their launch. But for indies, this is an excellent, Amazon ads are an excellent way to get more focus and attention to your backlist and to continue to sell that backlist. And as your backlist grows, particularly with series, readers love series, they love that read through. And I think Amazon ads is a great way to continue to have readers find your series and to build on that backlist.
Hi everyone, my name is Yuting. So at Open Road Integrated Media, we have been leveraging various marketing platforms to boost the visibility and sales of a large amount of titles. So one of the differences between Amazon and other platforms I noticed is that I believe audience on Amazon are generally have much higher purchase intent. So if we're working on ads on Facebook, we're most likely reaching people at earlier stage along the customer journey. So while on Facebook, we are able to target interest, behavior, those kind of things, but Amazon will allow us to target very specific individual product, specific keywords and those kind of subcategory. Those are the things we cannot do on Facebook or the other platform. And also I believe organic, eventually Amazon is beneficial for the organic placement for all the titles.
So just to make sure that everyone understands, Yuting, when you say it benefits organic placement, do you mean to say that once you've finished advertising a book, it comes up more frequently when people just do a search without you having to advertise, it comes up in a better position?
I think the thing is if we continuously running Amazon ads, and then the more sales you get together with the great reviews, your title just will rank better organically. So in that you have a better search result coming up. Yeah,
great.
Absolutely.
All right, so before we get too into the weeds of ranking and keywords and the rest of it, I just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page about what these ads are, how they work, what it means to place a bid. And here I'd like to ask Dave to offer that foundational knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. So before Amazon ads existed, we authors were somewhat at the mercy of the Amazon store. You would put your book up, you do a lot of things to get it prepared, and then you just really cross your fingers and hope that Amazon decides to show your book more often. Many authors would say things like, boy, my book is great, but if only I could get in front of people. Okay. Then Amazon ads came about. And what this is a system where you can basically say, hey, Amazon, I really want my book to show up when people search for this or check these things out or even open up their Kindle. And I tell you what, Amazon, if you do that, I will pay you a certain amount for every person that clicks on it and goes and checks out my book. Now, that's very important for a couple of reasons. Number one is you now have control to put your book in front of people you want to see it. Number two is you don't pay Amazon until they get somebody to engage with your book, click on it and go check it out. That's really great because it's not like you're paying for a billboard, and you just kind of hope people do something. You only pay when people do something about it. And three is that this gives you an ability to constantly keep your book in front of people. Kind of like what I said before. Also, Yuting brought up the fact that when you start making these sales through the Amazon ads, that Amazon, there's more engagement, there's more reviews, and then Amazon rewards your book, and so to speak, to show it more often. And so again, to recap on this, is that Amazon ads gives you the ability to set up a certain amount that you're willing to pay to get people from their store to come check your book out and hopefully make a sale.
And could you quickly describe where these ads appear?
Absolutely. So one way is that you can target certain keywords, okay? And keywords are the phrases that shoppers type into Amazon, okay? So say, for example, your book is on, we'll say, second chance romance, contemporary family, right? And you know people are typing this into Amazon. I was thinking of you, Jenny, when I came up with that. You know that people are thinking about that. They're going to Amazon, they're typing it in, but by golly, you just can't get your book to show up on that list of books, right? We call that the search results. Well, now you can say, all right, Amazon, I think that this will work so well for my book that I'm going to give you, say, 50 cents, 75 cents. It kind of depends, right? But there's a number that you'll figure out over time. And if you put me up there, I think this will be great for us. And so it's kind of a win-win, because if Amazon puts you there and people are engaging with it, not only are you paying them then, but you're also getting more people to see your book and hopefully purchase it. So there's the search results. Another one is that you could just say, you know, Amazon, I don't really know of the keywords, but maybe I want to show up in certain categories. Okay. So if people come to this type of book, I would love for my book to also show up next to them, or even on their sales page. You know, so like if somebody's looking at my competitor's book, maybe they'll see my book instead. And so that's another option where they can put your book there. And the final one is also on your lock screen for a Kindle. So we've all had our Kindle, right? And when you have it paired off, there's always that advertisement of somebody's book. That gives you an ability as well to show your book when somebody's maybe reading your competitor's book, or perhaps when they're a really big fan of contemporary romance, and you know that just having it right there will get them to engage with your book and check it out. And so there's some of the main ways. And one of the cool things about Amazon is that they're always updating, they're changing, they're adding. I think that they really care about the Amazon ad system. And so there's a lot of really neat features that come out, as well as new capabilities just about every other month or so.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Dave. All right. So I want to cut straight to the chase here. For traditionally published authors, you know, these ads can be very expensive, because when you compare it with what a self-publishing author earns off a sale, you know, traditionally published authors are earning less than that per copy sold. And so in fact, their royalty rate, or what they get, you know, for each book sold, might be equivalent to a click on an ad. So you can go in the hole really fast here. And the other thing is, what I notice, and I think has already been referenced, is that indie authors will often advertise first in a series. And so then they benefit or profit off of the ad if someone goes on to read through the entire series. And so it's kind of a long-term investment. So the question I'm getting at here is there a specific type of traditionally published author who has the most to benefit from running this ad at a loss? Or is there a certain type of author who could actually make a profit off of these ads? So I think, and part of the subtext here is, even if you don't directly profit off the ad, is this visibility worth it? And at what time might it be worth it? And Dave, I'm going to start with you here, because I know you have a pretty strong opinion on it. And then we will go to the rest of the panel.
Oops.
Sorry about that. I first want to start by saying that I think of Amazon ads as a skill. Okay. And I think that's really important for authors to think about. It is not something where you just kind of show up, click a couple buttons, and next thing you know, you are seeing great positive ROI. The most successful authors are the ones that treat it like a skill, like juggling. You know, you got to practice. You're probably going to throw a couple of balls in the air that hit you in the head. You know, you get a lump, you're like, ouch, you know. But the key is that when you start doing it, you start to gain intuition about how to change things and when to change things. And it's an incredible skill. And I will say that it is absolutely worth it to those who want to build a career as an author. You should absolutely approach it as such. That being said, is those who have been doing this and treat it like a skill usually have a higher success rate, probably better ROI in these ads, where somebody just starting will probably have some growing pains as they begin. I like to think of those growing pains as a kind of an investment. You're investing in your knowledge and experience. So that's the first part about this. If you're brand new to Amazon ads, just know that you're going to stumble. Okay. Those who have experience will have a much higher chance of success with their ROI. Another thing too, is like we were talking about, for self-published authors, generally speaking, you're getting about 70% of the sale. That's a lot easier to get a positive ROI and actually make money from your ads than if you are a published author, because you might depending on your contract with the publisher, you might only be getting like 15% or 20 or 30%. That means that you really have to like be awesome with your skills at Amazon ads in order to get a positive return. So generally speaking, off the bat, it's a lot harder. And finally, and I'll open the floor for others because I know there's a lot of other components to this, but the other authors that really benefit are the ones that have something, either they have their extensive list of books, or they have a great email list and they capture people on email and they're able to re-engage, or they have another product that they sell beyond just the book itself. So what I mean by this, well, if you can get people to find your book using Amazon ads, you're finding new customers, you're gaining more and more fandom of people who will, and again, assuming you're a great author, that will read your book and be like, man, I want to read another book by this person. And you can start to grow that. Or if you have an email list, when you start building up that email list, thanks to your Amazon ads, you have more people that you can reach out and engage with when you launch your next book or your next project. And finally, when we were talking about products, there are a lot of, especially in like nonfiction, where they sell a course or they sell a webinar or some kind of club membership. And they can then engage with those people and sell a much bigger product. So instead of just making, say, $3 or $4 per purchase of the book, they're instead making $200 or $300 per purchase because they have that next thing. Now, there are a couple of other things out there, but those are kind of the general components. And that's why it can be beneficial, but there are a lot of situations where it might not be so. And I think it's important for authors to understand that.
That makes a lot of sense. And I can see how nonfiction authors, there might be a huge benefit here if they do have those other products to sell. Jenny, I'd like to turn to you since you represent a very different, I think, position where you're writing novels. And you mentioned earlier that you can see some potential here for launches and new releases. Would you like to expand on that?
Sure. So you mentioned visibility, and I think visibility, and if visibility is worth it, I think visibility is always worth it. Anybody seeing your book, visibility is always what we're looking for. I think whether you're indie or traditional, but especially with traditional, those first few weeks are really important. That's when your publisher is putting the most marketing toward your book. That's when all the most stuff is happening with your book. So I think that's a great time to be, and I think that's where a lot of the Amazon ad marketing money is going to go to with the traditional authors coming, or the traditional houses coming in, is they're going to be putting the most towards that specific launch week, or the first, few weeks when everything comes out. I think where you were talking about, is this possible for different authors? I'm assuming you kind of mean like different genres. So I think that there is a place for all the genres to use Amazon ads. And I know with romance is so huge, and it's glutted in a way because there's so many romance authors that are using Amazon ads, that if you do write science fiction, or you do have a cookbook, or you do have a self-help book, you almost are at an advantage because there isn't as much competition to be able to see your book against, with romance or science fiction, with some of these huge thriller, these huge categories. If you do learn a little bit about keywords and you do learn, a little bit about it, I think that you have a better chance of being seen because the competition isn't quite as big. And very quickly, I did want to say that if you're listening to this, we are throwing out a lot of words and a lot of terminology, but also know that Amazon wants you to use this. And there's also auto ads where you don't have to know all of the things. Amazon has given you this choice of using an auto ad where they go pick all of the stuff for you. They look at your book, and it's a great way to just kind of start and learn and, you know, kind of get set up with auto ads before you dive into all the deeper stuff and start collecting that data that Michael was talking about, because that data is so, so important. So don't be scared by all of the terminology and all of the stuff that we're talking about today. You can really kind of start small with Amazon, and you can learn the auto ads and start learning and building from there. Did that help?
Yes, and when you say start small, I think we should probably quantify that for people. You can like spend as little as a few dollars a day. Is that right?
So I often, I often recommend starting with a $5 to $10 a day budget. With one thing I would say is you have to try pretty hard to get Amazon to spend your money. Amazon will not spend your money. So don't be scared by putting $5 to $10 a day. If you are advertising on Facebook, Facebook will spend your money as fast as much money and as fast as you give it to them. Amazon, you really have to work to try to get them to spend your money. So don't be afraid to, and I always recommend starting with, 5 ads, 5 different kinds of ads, 5 to 10 ads. I wouldn't do more than 10 ads in a single day. But that's kind of the fun and the beauty of learning the Amazon ads is you can put a bunch of ads out there and you can do 5 to 10 ads. And I would start out, $5 to $10 a day of your budget and just kind of see how it goes, collect that data and build from there.
Michael, what do you think? Is the visibility worth it? Or you mentioned the data collection that's so valuable?
Yeah, it's absolutely worth it for me. I will say one of the things that I had to do, Dave said at the beginning of this that Amazon ads is a skill. And it's so true. I don't know. I'm fairly successful with Amazon ads. I've talked to a lot of people who are successful with Amazon ads. Very few of them just set ads and then walk away. There is the second component of you have to be willing to track and quantify to figure out if your ads are working. And that's a whole nother ball of wax. But, for traditionally published authors, the other thing you have to think about is when you receive your royalty statements, how are your sales broken out? And are you going to be able to track to see if I spent $200 on Amazon ads, just to use a number, in the first quarter of this year, and I get my royalty statement, assuming you get a quarterly royalty statement. I know sometimes you don't even get them that frequently, but let's just humor me for a second that you do. And are you able to look at what you spent versus what you made and figure out if the number is higher or if it's the same? So that's another thing that you want to think about, is be thinking about your royalty statements, because if you were to talk to people who are practitioners of Amazon ads, they can teach you the nuts and bolts of the ads, but you also have to be able to be willing to put in the time to track those ads. And you also have to be willing to set aside some money that you can be okay losing. Now, a lot of people will buy courses. We were talking earlier, Brian Cohen has a great course, Alana Terry, Jenny, you can help me with some more names, but there are lots of Mark Dawson. They all have phenomenal courses. They're going to cost you a few $100s. And a lot of people say, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. And it is a lot of money. But if you follow their techniques, you'll make that money back over the short term. It might take you longer if you're a traditionally published author because of the royalty rates. But otherwise, if you get into Amazon ads and you don't know what you're doing, you can probably lose a whole lot more money. So courses are a lot safer. And then reserving a small amount, whatever you can afford, budget, that this is the money you're going to use to practition and figure out how these work. And you're going to make mistakes. I don't think a single person on this panel has not made a mistake. I've made mistakes that have cost me hundreds of dollars. But because I was able to use the techniques in the courses, there was never a situation where I couldn't get myself out of it. Everything is fixable, but you just have to have the knowledge and the awareness. And that's what a good teacher can help you with. So to your question, Jane, is the visibility worth it? Absolutely, because I've been able to do some amazing things and reach people that I would have never reached. And I can quantify it. And I know that based on the data that my ads are working. So it's just another thing to think about.
Yeah, I would just add on that. I think that idea of investment and what are you willing to invest? How much time and how much money are you willing to invest? And what are you hoping to get out of it? Right. When we talk about return on investment, those are the two key questions there. And I think what the possible return is for you is going to vary. I do think that for many traditionally published authors, that the investment into becoming very skilled in Amazon advertising might be a far reach at this point. There is, there's a lot to it, and to that point of like really being able to drive new sales that make it worth it for you on that alone might be really difficult. But I think investing the time to learn enough to be informed and to be able to ask informed questions back to your publisher about what they're doing in Amazon is valuable for every author. To know how Amazon ads can be used to improve visibility for your books, and how your publisher, to be able to go to them and say, I want to hear more about the marketing plan. Where does Amazon ads fit into all of the things that we're doing, and to be able to, understand what they're doing to support your titles is also going to be really important.
Great.
Yeah, so I totally agree with that the visibility should be worth it. But as Dave and Mike already mentioned, that we definitely need to invest time in terms of this. So usually our ads turns to run, at least you need to run it for 2 weeks before Amazon optimize all the performance. You will also need to constantly monitor the result, making adjustments. And as Jenny mentioned, I think another benefit is that you can just start with very small amount. Like actually, I think I remember the requirement is more than $1. I don't think you will only put $1 per day, but I think like they have very minimal requirement, and you won't be charged based on impression. So that's a good thing. You will only be charged when it's click as well. Yeah.
And this is an open question. Anyone who has knowledge to share, I think it was Jenny who mentioned, it's hugely competitive in the romance area to be advertising. There's some other genres or categories where there's less competition, which means the ads become more affordable because people aren't bidding up, the prices. For authors who may be looking for a bargain, are there specific categories or genres where you feel like, boy, I really wish I wrote in that area because no one's advertising as much as they should be?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I could start. I would say one of the things that we talked about daily budgets. You pay only when someone clicks on your ad. And these days, I write many genres. So I write several different genres in science fiction and fantasy. And I'm finding that, I'm paying about 45 cents a click, and that's up from about 6 months ago when I could get away in like the high 30s. Self-help nonfiction, I'm finding that I'm paying a little bit more than that, closer to $1, depending on the book. So yeah, I've romance, I've heard, the cost per click is quite high. If you're writing, there's really no genre you can't make this work for. I guess if I had a huge poetry collection, I would love to see what I could do with poetry, because poetry is having a renaissance right now. And it's kind of amazing to see like all the people that are writing it. And I think maybe there's an area for poetry and literary fiction to start Amazon ads. And I think the cost per click would probably be pretty cheap.
Yeah, I can say we have seen, there's so many variables, but we've definitely seen some genres that are more affordable than others. I would say less literary fiction, though poetry, we are seeing some pretty affordable clicks, but in general, it is getting more expensive. And I think that's happening as more people are coming in. One of the challenges to really be aware of on the nonfiction side is when you might be bidding against clicks from other product categories, where their products cost more money, their margins are better, and they're willing to pay more. And one of the things that you can get a decent visibility just on understanding the competitive landscape and the costs is Amazon will provide suggested bid ranges when you start setting up your ads, so you can get a quick sense of, is this something that is a more expensive space or a less expensive space to start. We're also finding that category targeting is much less expensive on a per click basis in general. And with our keyword targeting, that really is about finding the right keywords for you over time, and which ones, you can be more efficient and bring that cost per click down as you start to spend and find the targets that are the right fit and that are going to drive sales for you. So you get that click, is somebody buying it when they come over to the page? And then it might be worth spending a little bit more for it.
And I think that there's probably like entire workshops on writing to market or not, and if it's worth it to write to market or not. I don't know that it's worth it to write to market just for Amazon ads. I think there's something to be said for building your brand and, having that backlist, and kind of the idea behind the advertising is if they like this one book that you've written, that they're going to continue to like other things that you write. And, you're targeting a particular audience. So I write romance, but I also write mystery. So, I write cozy mystery. So if I'm targeting this cozy mystery audience and they're coming to, through my ad and trying to find the other cozy mysteries that I write, and then I've got 18 other genres that I write, then I don't know that it's worth trying to, Michael said he writes a bunch of different genres, but they're all basically in, science fiction and fantasy. So they're all still in this realm. I don't know that Amazon ads is worth trying to branch out to a whole bunch of different to write to market. I wouldn't say that that's probably the best idea. Use of your time.
Yeah, I would say, just to kind of add on to the discussion about skills, I think that really kind of plays into it. There are certain like niche subjects or something where you don't have to be, really great at Amazon ads, and you have a very positive ROI right from the gate, right out of the gate. That being said, though, as you start to get into some more competitive ones, you will start to gain more experience and really start to dig down and find that it's not the surface level thing. It's these other things down here. And you start to find your opportunity and start to improve your profit / ROI. And then sometimes you get into like really hardcore ones that are very competitive. And again, as you've been building your skill, you will find that point. You will have the intuition of knowing, okay, this is actually the price point. This is the things I should tackle. This is what I've seen happen. And that's when you start to get a better ROI. And that's why thinking about this like a skill can be really important. If you just jump right into the deep end and you like, oh man, I didn't see the positives that I was expecting right out of the gate, like many authors will do, they'll just shift and say, oh, it doesn't work. And then they don't build up for it. And I think that's a really important kind of example of how this works. And one last thing too is also just knowing your genre can be incredible. I've worked with authors before, and I'm sorry, I don't read romance. I'm more of a sci-fi military guy, and I know words like, the phrases that people look like bug hunt or intergalactic or battle cruisers. Like I know these things because it's deep, people who don't understand sci-fi military might not have thought of any of those terms. It might be like bug hunt. What does that have to do with a sci-fi military? But us sci-fi military people, we know what that means. And that's also an important aspect to ads too. A novice might come in and just say, I'm going to go after science fiction. But those who really understand that and they've built up their skills says, no, I'm going intergalactic bug hunt. And then they find that opportunity. They're finding new real readers that connect with their books, and they're getting quicker conversions faster and therefore costing less. And so that I think really illustrates that whole skill point to this.
And if I could add on two tiny quick things where Jess was talking about that Amazon does give you a suggested bid. From what the classes that I take, they don't really recommend, you don't have to go with that suggested bid. So just because the suggested bid is 70 cents, 85 cents, that might feel a little gun shy. You can, scale down 20 cents of that each time, and you can bid just 35 cents, 50 cents. So don't be intimidated by their suggested bid, and you don't have to do their suggested bid.
Start small and then scale your way up.
Great point. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I like to use the suggested bid, not to set the bid, but to understand the competitiveness of the space. So when something comes back and it's a $1 suggested bid, I know there's a lot more people going after that than if it's a 22-cent suggested bid.
That's an excellent point.
Yep.
Yu Ting, I'm curious if there are specific genres at Open Road where you feel like Amazon ads are more important for that area than others, or if it's just equally important across the board.
I personally don't have like completely different strategy across different genre. I feel like at the end of the day, still mostly depends on the nature of the book. But for fiction books, as Jenny already mentioned, some category might be really competitive. But within those kind of category, we might try to target the subcategory within, so you're kind of avoiding the competition. But I think for fiction books, another thing is like consumer probably has a stronger preferences or attachment towards the authors. You might want to target some author within the similar genre, and if you have a book within the same series, you might want to target the series name as well. And for those nonfiction, for nonfiction books, I feel like probably category targeting works better. Just because, just imagine how you will search as a reader yourself. Probably people will search for World War II history book or Marilyn Monroe biography, this kind of stuff. So those are definitely the things you can target. And then if you have like well-known incident or a well-known figure you're describing your nonfiction book, you can definitely try target those as well.
Jess, I'd like to turn to you because I have always, I think the thing that changed my mind about Amazon ads, about how effective they were, was when I saw an Ingram case study on an old backlist title about the World War II. I think it was Letters from Attu, this memoir. Do you know the case study I'm talking about? Would you talk about this case and the role that the Amazon ad played?
Yeah, absolutely. So this was a deep backlist book for the publisher. The author in this case was not really active writing anymore. It was memoirs. And the book was about an island off the coast of Alaska that was involved in World War II that was also featured or was a large part of the story of a new frontlist book being published by Simon & Schuster. And so this title, getting a lot of press, the author was doing the rounds, and this little book got slight bump in sales that we noticed. And because people were looking for the island and they came across our book. And so we worked with the publisher to really start up an Amazon ad campaign. We complemented that with social ads as well. So, really thinking about how Amazon fits into a broader goals for a title. And for, the really like the 6-week period around the publication of this other title, grew this book's sales by many fold over what it had sold the entire previous year, or several years, in fact. And I think that's really like, I think one of the things that is really powerful for me when thinking about how traditional authors can use this is on the backlist side. The realities are our publishers are, there a lot of that focused energy happens at launch. And so, you are thinking about your books a lot more often than your publisher often is. And I think being able to reinvigorate titles, tie into what might be happening in the news, new trends in media, and really jump on opportunities. I think at a really focused point in time can be a really great strategy to, grow sales, especially for books that might have earned out. And you're getting those, each incremental sale is really valuable for you because it can help while you're doing that advertising campaign. But to the points that have been made around your discoverability and visibility after the fact, it really raises the profile of the book, right? Every keyword that drives somebody over to the page and they buy the book, every product placement when it's next to those other books and it drives a sale, that feeds Amazon's algorithm. So now Amazon is incentivized to start placing that book in the customers who viewed also viewed, customers who bought also bought. We think you might also like this, and it improves your search rank for the right keywords. So it really can have knock-on effects outside the life of any particular point in time that you're spending money.
Yeah, I think that's the part that was most gratifying about that study, is that it seemed like for a pretty modest investment that would be affordable for most authors, you're able to get this increased visibility even after the ad campaign ends. And it's like you said, you're letting Amazon know, hey, people are still interested in this book if you give it a chance, and boost it up in the search results a little more. And
Absolutely.
so you have this continued halo effect for months and months.
And I think one other thing for traditional authors that you're thinking about your books in different ways than your publisher is, even if they're paying lots of attention and really working those. You might have books published with different publishers. You might be hybrid and really working across different genres, and you can create ads and run campaigns that are very different than what your publisher might be doing.
Anyone else want to comment on front list or backlist advertising strategies?
My strategy is the same for front list and backlist. I don't do anything different for front list than I do backlist. I'm more focused on the books that are going to be the most profitable, which are the books that have the best covers, the sharpest book descriptions. And then if I was a traditionally published author, if you've got a book that's available in audio, that's also a great candidate for advertising, because there are some readers who only read in audio. And so if they buy audio, that's going to help improve your profitability and the chances of you being profitable with your ads. But the techniques and the nuts and bolts of actually running ads are the same regardless of whether you're doing it for front list or backlist. If you wanted, you could run ads on all of your books. I have over 60 books now, so that's it's an interesting proposition. But if I wanted to, I could run ads on all those 60 books, and the techniques that people talk about all the time with Amazon ads, they would work the same on all of them. Some books might not perform as well as others, but that usually has more to do with the intrinsic value of the book as opposed to whether it's front list or backlist. Readers really aren't paying attention to whether a book is front list or backlist. They're just going to click on the ad if they're interested.
Yeah, and I spend a lot of time on my first in series, because I have different series. So I spend a lot of time on first in series. I also have a nonfiction book that is a writer's reference on how to sprint, and it's like a sprinting journal. And so I do that. But I love what Michael just brought up about you can run ads for your audiobooks, you can run ads for your paperbacks, because there's different readers in each of those. I did want to say earlier where Michael was talking about how to see the results. So I have four different publishers plus myself, and like he was saying, sometimes you get paid quarterly. 2 of my publishers you get paid twice a year. So you're not really going to be able to, maybe if you're really good, you could track, from a year ago what you did on Amazon ads. But an easier way to try to kind of see, and there's all sorts of ideas out there. There's Book Report. Brian Cohen teaches a lot of different ways to do it, but you can just kind of look at your rank on Amazon and see, how as an indie, you can just go look and see, did I sell a book or 2 today, or 8 or 25? Did I have Kindle Unlimited pages? But with the traditional, I think you're kind of looking at your rank and where you're moving around in there. And I think that's going to be your best way to kind of see how things are working for you. And I think that's the best way to check that versus trying to track something a year from now when you actually find out about it.
Yeah, if I were going to do it, what I would do is I would keep a log or a journal of the ads. Amazon tells you how much you've spent, so you can get that data at any point. And when I get the royalty statement, I would look at how much I made for that particular book. And then I would subtract that from what I made, or subtract the expenses from what I made. If you have money left over, then you made a profit. If you don't have any money left over, then you didn't make a profit. And so you probably didn't do something right with the Amazon ads, or maybe your sales you have to look at the average and you have to figure out, did the ads move the needle and result in more income than you would have gotten if you had not used them? And that's a little bit tougher for writers. I mean, we're not numbers people and we're not Microsoft Excel people. I know.
Sounds like you are.
I am. Yeah, I am. But at the end of the day, you got to figure out a way to figure it out, because, we're not running a charity here, right? I don't think anyone just wants to throw money at it and watch the money disappear, but it's definitely a worthy experiment.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you sort of reminded me of is I think it's really important to think about what Amazon will report to you in Amazon ads. They'll give you orders, attributed orders to the ad. So you can see directly how many units were sold based on your ads. The metrics there are, I think, they're not designed for authors. So the what's called ROAS in Amazon and ACOS, that's really based on the Amazon's price to the consumer, not how much you are earning from each of those sales. And and I think it's important to think about, like, you want to run profitable campaigns. There might be some things you can do as you're running the campaign to sort of think about, like, that cost per click is important to watch, but also cost per sale, essentially. So, right, how many units did your campaign sell? How much did you spend? And is that worth it? If it costs you $3 to drive a sale, that may or may not be worth it for you, depending on all of the other things that you're doing. But at the end of the day, you're also looking back to Michael and Jenny's point, back at the royalty statement to see how many units overall were sold. Because there's the direct sales from your ad campaign, but then there's all of the positive things that might happen from what you're doing. So your overall sales could increase at a higher rate than what you might be seeing in the Amazon ad platform.
Just in terms of the strategy of frontlist versus backlist, one thing I do want to mention is, like, generally for backlist, we don't necessarily want to spend on the keywords like the author name or the title name itself, because these are the things where your product, your books already have good organic placement. So you don't want to like spend on those kind of, you don't want to generate those unnecessary spend. But for frontlist, before it's released, by the time when we push them, those kind of title hasn't got much visibility yet. So I will particularly target the keywords of target the title name on the author name to make sure the title has good organic placement just right before the release day, and then by the time I see it's ranking good organically, I probably just pause those kind of keywords and focus on the rest. Yeah.
So you've actually created a really great segue there to the nuts and bolts of setting up these campaigns. I mean, I haven't set up campaigns myself, but after hearing people discuss it for months and years now, it feels like deciding what your keywords are is a pretty critical moment in the campaign success, aside from, what you're bidding, meaning that you need keywords that are highly relevant, that you're not wasting money, as you mentioned, advertising for something where you would already be appearing in the search results anyway. And maybe I'll start with Dave here, since you do have the keyword research tool that you offer. If people weren't going to use your tool, if they were just going to muscle through it on their own, what do you suggest?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what I said before, which is you as a genre writer or as a nonfiction writer, you really know the kind of words that people use to describe the book. And you can really niche down to things that make it so that you're not paying dollars per click, but instead you're going after something a lot more affordable, and therefore increases your chances for ROI. For example, like I said before, somebody who might be new or who, just jumps in might make science fiction, the target keyword. Well, the reason why that's a really bad one is because, first off, it's so competitive. Like, you're going to be paying dollars per click instead of cents. The second thing is that, okay, if Amazon chooses to show you for that phrase, what are the chances that your science fiction book is the type of science fiction that somebody's looking for, right? So you're probably going to have a lot of people see your book and they're not going to engage with it because it's not a good fit. Sure, it's science fiction, but I mean, are we talking hard science? Are we talking, sci-fi military? Are we talking, alien invasion? Like, what is it? What core components? But when you start to really understand this and you start to get to know what your shoppers use, or you really know your genre, you can start building out phrases that are niche, but they have much higher conversions. If I, go back to an example, I said Space Marine Bug Hunt. Okay. Those 4 words are an exact type of book. And there aren't a lot of people competing for that phrase as compared to something more broad. And I would say that you will have a much higher conversion rate because your book is a Space Marine bug hunt. And for those who, I keep using the term, that's where you're like fighting against a horde of aliens, kind of like ants, like you think in like Starship Troopers, right? But we know those terms. And so the phrases that you target, the things you go after, even if it's other author names that are new or up and coming, these give you a chance to be seen by the right kind of people. It has a lower cost per click, and therefore your chances of a higher return increase dramatically.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Okay, sorry, Jess. I'll add to what Dave said. Dave talked a lot about interest-based keywords, and then he mentioned author-based keywords. The most successful keywords I've had are author names and titles of other books. And the beautiful thing about Amazon ads is that when you get your reports, you can look at your reports up to, I think, 65 days in the past, and it'll tell you what search terms people clicked on. And what you often find is people were clicking on titles that you didn't know existed. So the search reports are also a wonderful way to figure out what types of ads are relevant to your book. They're also relevant because they tell you what types of ads or what types of terms are eating up your clicks. So I think it was Jess that mentioned earlier, sometimes you can accidentally target physical products or products that have nothing to do with your genre, and they'll eat up a higher cost per click. So for example, if I was advertising an urban fantasy book and for some reason people were clicking on a keyword for a card game, like Buffy the Vampire card game. All right. And for some reason, there's something about my book that is eating up those clicks. People are clicking on my book, but they're not buying it because they're looking for Buffy card sets. All right. That's an example of a keyword that you don't want to target. And you can use Amazon's negative targeting feature to throw in keywords that you can say, Amazon, do not serve my ad to these products. And that will also help to lower your cost per click over time.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. And I think as Jenny mentioned, the automatic targeting campaigns. If you're just getting started, that's where you can get a lot of those ideas. Amazon starts serving it and bring them back. It is really important if you're running those to monitor it, to watch that campaign, to dive into that search term report and negative out the terms that aren't a good fit. In terms of the interest-based keyword research, one of the things I'd love to do is just read reviews for other books. Because people often search for books the way they talk about books. So what are they saying about it in those reviews? And you can search, do practice searches in Amazon as you start typing in your genre. Space Marine Bug Hunt, right? Is that popping up in the auto prompts from Amazon? Are there other terms, other Space Marine related terms that are a good fit for your book? Those can be really good keyword targets.
Great. As Jenny and Jess already mentioned, that automatic campaign is a good way when you're not entirely sure about what kind of keywords you use. So you can run that for like a week or two and gather information from the search term section. And also you will see the conversion rate of each section. And then you can utilize that information, use that kind of keywords to turn them into a manual campaign. And another practice I find kind of beneficial for us is like within the vendor central or seller central, there's a section called Amazon search term. So if you want to like search for what our people are searching for regarding a specific author, for example, Michael Connelly, you will search for the author name and it will return all these relevant, like most frequently searched term correspondingly, and the most frequent product correspondingly. Like for example, I'm noticing people searching for Michael Connelly new release 2022, Michael Connelly the Bosch series, Michael Connelly the Lincoln Lawyer, those kind of things. So that can give you some new ideas as well. Yeah.
Jenny, did you have anything to add on the keyword side?
I think it's just important as an author. I think the days of, oh, I got a publisher, they're going to do everything for me, are gone. And I think it's important as an author to know everything you can about your genre, to, you know, whether you're going to dive into keywords right now or not, it's important to know who else writes books like yours, who are your stories like, what are all the little specific parts of your genre. I did want to mention really fast that these, because I know we're throwing out a lot of terms and a lot of things that make it seem really scary, but some of those courses that we were talking about and that Michael was talking about in investing in yourself, a lot of those courses have a free course to start with. So Brian Cohen, I know he does a 5-day challenge where for 5 days you get his expertise for an hour a day and learning how to do some of this stuff for free. And you can start small. I think it's important to know all this stuff about your genre and your book and where your book fits in. I also think that if you don't understand keywords that well, then just get Dave's Publisher Rocket and it will go find them all for you. That's what I did in the beginning, is I just bought that and it brought it up for me. But yeah, I think just it's important to know that stuff, but don't feel like you have to know everything before you start. You can kind of dive in, you can take some of these free classes, you can do a little bit of, you know, the auto and start gathering data and build your knowledge. I think I just don't want people to be intimidated and think I can't ever do this, because there's so many pieces to it. Because I think a lot of us get like that, like, oh, forget it, it's not worth my time, it's going to take me so long to learn. It doesn't take that long to learn. It does take some time, but there's free courses, and I think the more we know, the better off we are.
I'd like to go over to the Q&A box now and pull out some questions that we haven't touched on yet. Lisa's wondering if you suggest Amazon ads for pre-orders or pre-sales of a book. She mentions that, you know, she has a book coming out this fall. It has a stunning cover. What do you think?
I'll jump in on that. I personally don't like them. Some people may disagree with me on this, but I've seen a lot of failure in doing Amazon ads for pre-orders. And a lot of that is because people want things now. And so when they see your ad, they will click on it, and which means you just paid Amazon. And then they'll be like, oh, it's not coming out till then, you know, till later. Well, I'll just remember it, you know, and then they leave because they don't like to pay for something that they don't get. Now, that being said, though, on the other side of the coin, I find it very successful if, say, you are a famous author or you have a following, and it's like a quick reminder. I'm a big fan of the Babaverse series, you know, and I love those books. And one of his ads for the next coming book got me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm totally engaged in that. I'm going to purchase it. But it was only because I recognized it. He was just capturing me right then and there. So I'm not actually a fan of pre-orders unless you are famous or you have a following or it's a series that's really popular. Otherwise, you're really adding the difficulty to converting that sale.
Yeah, I
The flip side of
completely
that.
agree. Oh, so sorry, Jenny.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Jess.
I was gonna say, I absolutely agree on that point. I think, and Yutang mentioned this around those, like for frontlist branded keywords, I think there can be a lot of value in focusing having a pre-order campaign around kind of your brand. If somebody's looking at your other books, making sure that they are well aware that you've got a new one coming out. I would say we are seeing that happen much closer to pub date. So for the successful pre-order campaigns that we are running, and there are ones that are successful, it is, we used to run like starting 4 or 6 weeks out. Now we're like really trying to focus in on like 1 to 2 weeks pre-pub. And I think we're seeing some of that kind of shifts in what consumers expect as they buy more online. They know the book's going to be there. They're not worried about getting it right now if they'll come back when it's on sale.
I would agree with that as far as closer to. I think on Facebook, you can run an ad for like 2 or 3 days and you can see traction. On Amazon, your traction takes a little bit longer. So I think somewhere along the line, there was a question about how often should you be checking? And, you could drive yourself crazy going in every hour going, did I sell a book? Did somebody click on my book? But I think with Amazon, it takes a little bit longer to build that traction. So if you're trying for the pre-orders, maybe 7 to 10 days, that couple of weeks where people are like, oh, well, it's not so far out, I don't have to wait months for it. It might be, it might behoove you to try it, because sometimes it takes 5 to 6, 4 to 7 days to even get that traction going where they start showing it. And you do want to try to probably run your ads a little bit longer in Amazon than you would on Facebook. And I think also that it's really, well, so maybe if it is a series, I just love running first in series so much, but if they see a series and they know they have 7 to 10 days to catch up, then they might start back on book 1 and get all read up before your new book comes out in a week or 2.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Amazon ads versus the other options, to the extent that you're comfortable commenting on the other options. And I'm going to limit it to Facebook, which has come up quite a bit here, and BookBub. I don't want you to say whether one's better than the other. I'm sure there's two. It's probably about the tool you're most comfortable employing, but do you feel like there are any principles people need to keep in mind, especially if they're accustomed to one of those other platforms and are new to Amazon?
Yeah, I can start. I run both Amazon and Facebook ads. I would say Facebook is quick to spend your money. Amazon is not. Facebook is faster to show your ads. Amazon takes a little bit more time. And at the end of the day, they both have similar functions, but they're not identical. And if it were me, I would pick one, get really good at it before you branch off into the others. There's a lot of differences between the two. With Facebook, you can do so much more with targeting people. I mean, you can target people in your genre who have Kindles, who live in Australia, right? Whereas you can run international ads with Amazon. It's just a little bit of a different process. I would say what I appreciate about Amazon ads is that it was the first platform that I learned. It helped teach me pay-per-click advertising, which I think is a critical skill for authors to know moving forward. It's always been critical, but Facebook is a little bit tougher because it's a little bit less forgiving. So if you make a mistake with Facebook, they're going to take your money. There's nothing you can do about it. Whereas if you make a mistake with Amazon, you have the opportunity to catch it, you can fix it. And Amazon, sometimes it can take ads 1 to 2 weeks to even turn on. And another big difference is that with Facebook, you're going to have fewer ads, generally speaking, unless you're making a lot of money and you're really good at it. Whereas with Amazon, you're going to have a lot of ads. That is probably the best way to make money with Amazon ads. I've got hundreds of Amazon ads running right now, all with budgets of $5 a day, or so I'd be bankrupt if they actually spent all my money, but they don't. So yeah, there's some cultural differences. I would pick one, learn it. And if you've learned Facebook ads and you're good at those, then the lessons you learn there, you can absolutely bring them over to Amazon ads. You just have to know it's a little bit more of a slower platform in terms of how things operate. I find it took me about 3 to 4 months before the ad work that I started doing actually started bearing fruit on Amazon ads. And that was studying courses, doing everything that the instructors told me to do, experimenting. So just, you have to know that it's going to take you a little bit longer to see results. on Amazon.
And
Yeah, I'd
Amazon
love-
is based
go
on
ahead.
your, sorry, Dave, do you want to go ahead?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say with Amazon, what they're seeing is your book cover. So we haven't talked about it, but every single course that you ever take is going to just start out talking about that you have to have an amazing package to sell. You want to make sure that your book cover matches in your genre and that it's a really high quality, amazing cover. So Amazon, they're just going to show your cover. With Facebook, you can use other imagery. You could have a romance and your Facebook ad could be a picture of two people kissing in the rain that isn't anything to do that isn't on your cover. It's just a picture that Amazon or Facebook, as you're scrolling through, you stop on this picture of this couple kissing in the rain, or a sci-fi battle, or a bug hunt battle. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to find out after this is over. So there's different imagery that you can pick. So a Facebook ad might not even have your cover on it. And you're counting on people as they're scrolling through, stopping on an image that catches their attention. Versus with Amazon, a lot more times they're actually searching for something and then your book comes up, or your cover comes up on another book similar to theirs.
Yeah, I just want to expand on that last part that Jenny said. I think it's incredibly important. One of the differences between Facebook versus Amazon ads and BookBub ads, for that matter, is that on Facebook, you have to create advertisements that interrupt somebody's, just cat video or whatever it is that they're doing on Facebook, right? Because we don't go to Facebook and say, oh man, I'm going to find that next book of mine, that I'm going to read. Instead, you got to create something that's like, hey, stop being here on Facebook, come all the way over here. Now make the decision that you want to buy a book right now and buy my book. Whereas when you're working with BookBub ads or Amazon ads, you're dealing with a customer base that's already in the mind of, I want a book and I want a book right now. According to Amazon, they say that 66% of all people that shop on Amazon go to the search bar to look for their next book. But the crazy part is, out of that 66%, 89% convert in a sale. That means that 89% who are searching for something on Amazon are there because they're ready to buy a book. And so with Amazon ads, I'm basically already advertising to people who've decided they want to buy a book. All I have to do is convince them to buy my book instead of that one. And so for me personally, I've found a lot more enjoyment and success in those two. But that being said, is that again, Facebook has a lot of options and it's a great skill set. And I'm going to end this by saying I love what Michael said, which is choose one, really get good at it. And then as you do that, branch off to the next one, build up that skill set. So you have many things, but definitely don't try to do like all three at once, where you're just going to spin your wheels. You're not going to get as much movement on it. You're going to be burnt out pretty quickly. And so, yeah, just stick with that one.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll add is I think if one of your primary goals is building your own brand, growing your email list, doing things that are not just driving sales at Amazon, Facebook will give you a lot more options to be able to do that and to be able to build an audience of people. But I think Yuting mentioned this at the beginning, really thinking about kind of how readers are finding you, and where you can add the most value to them to improve your overall sales.
I just want to add one more point. So Amazon has definitely have limited capability in terms of the creative and customize your ad copy. But on the flip side, I feel like the Amazon ad looks more like an organic listing than other sponsor ads. So probably consumer wouldn't notice like a sponsor ad. There are 12 on a page, but they just click on it, and that leads to a higher conversion as well.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that searching Amazon listings. I'm actually frustrated that almost the entire first page is advertisements. And I'm like, I want the organic. But okay, I'll put my personal complaint aside. We haven't talked about Kindle Unlimited and the role that might play. I know it's a really big factor for self-publishing authors who advertise on Amazon, because you not only get potential sales, but you also get reads if your book is in Kindle Unlimited. So one of the questions here from a writer is, do these ads really work better if your book's in KU versus not? I wonder if Jenny, I feel like this comes up a lot with romance. I feel like you might have an opinion on this one.
Yeah, I think for sure, if you are KDP and you have your books in Kindle Unlimited, Amazon ads are definitely something that you should be trying and exploring. And there's an actual category on your sales page that shows your Kindle Unlimited pages read. I think it's kind of interesting that there are some traditional publishers that are dipping their toe in, and that they are actually allowing some of the traditional books. They're putting them in Kindle Unlimited. So there is an opportunity to still earn with that. Since we're talking about traditional, I want to put that in there. But yeah, if you're indie and you are KDP, I mean, if you're in Select and you are specifically just with Amazon, I think Amazon ads are a great way to try to earn money in both places on selling each book and then the pages read for sure.
Okay, so here's the last question. Let's say, you've attended today's panel, maybe you've read a book, taken a course, and you start your first campaigns. And the ads just don't seem to be serving, or maybe the ads are serving, but it's not converting, you're not getting any sales off the ad. You feel like you've done everything right, but it's like flushing money down the toilet. What would your next step be in that situation? And let's go in alpha order again, because that's simplest for me. So Dave, we'll start with you.
Sure. Well, I know Michael touched on this a bit, but one of the things I love most about Amazon ads is I finally get to see numbers that help me to make decisions. For example, say you've really, you've gotten a strong set of keywords, and so you're getting enough impressions, which is the word for people have seen your book, okay, show up in the ads, but you're not getting any clicks, right? You're getting little to no clicks. Nobody's engaging with it. That can help me as an author say, okay, well, I can clearly see that thousands of people have seen my book and they don't care. They don't want to engage with it. So maybe there's two things. Either A, my keywords that I've selected are in left field and have nothing to do with my book, which we can subjectively look at that and figure that out. Or my cover is just not there. It is not engaging. It is not clicking. It's not connecting with the kind of people that want to read my book. And so that can be something for me to address. But now let's go a little bit further. Let's say I have a whole bunch of people that are seeing my book and they're clicking on it, but they're not buying the book. I can now see a break in the chain where people they typed something into Amazon. They saw my book cover, from my ad. They clicked on it. They were interested, but then something stopped them from hitting the buy button. And so one of the big culprits to this is just having a book description that's actually not well written, or it's a book report, or it's not engaging, or it's not clear that this is the kind of genre, the kind of story that I want, or the kind of information I need for my nonfiction. And so then I can go back and I can, maybe read and educate a little bit more on that, or hire somebody to rewrite my book description, or just give it some more attention. And then you can start to see, if you fix that problem, all of a sudden this funnel of people who are seeing your ad, engaging with it, and then buying actually gets better. And one of the things I love most about this is that when you do that and you improve your cover, or you fix your book description, you can see that not only will your Amazon ads improve, but every marketing effort you do will improve, because now you know where the problem was and you've absolutely fixed it. So if you're doing Facebook ads, those things are going to convert better. If you're emailing out to your own email list, they're going to do better. Or if people are just talking about your book, it's going to convert better. So that's one of the things I really love about it, is finally Amazon gives us some numbers as authors to make decisions like that and figure out where the problem might lie.
Dave knocked that one out of the park.
Yeah.
I know. I think that's absolutely right. I think that the valuable thing that Amazon ads does give you is that data to figure out where in that journey, what's breaking, and point you in the right direction. It might not tell you exactly what you need to fix, but it's going to give you some direction on where to go next. The other kind of things that we do see frequently happening is one reason they might not be performing well is you don't have enough targets. So if it's not serving, if you're not getting those impressions, you might really need to expand. And you can have hundreds of product targets, hundreds of keywords. It's really going to depend on the book, and you really might just need to expand your reach. Yeah, and I think the other thing for I think traditional authors to think about is on that product page, you might also be able to work with your publisher to get A+ content, which is richer content added to the page that gives more deeper visuals, right? It's not just the text description, maybe some bullet points. You can have really beautiful interiors from the book, can call out quotes from reviews, and really sort of merchandise and package the book really attractively on the Amazon page. And we can see that improve the conversion rates as well.
Yeah, I have a royal order of diagnoses that I try to follow when something's not working. So if I start a bunch of ads, or let's just I start one ad, and after 2 or 3 days, it's got less than 1,000 impressions, then I'm not bidding high enough. So I probably need to increase my cost per click bid. If I'm getting a lot of impressions, but I'm not getting any clicks, first thing I think about is my ad copy. So you have the ability to write, I think it's like 100 characters or 150 characters. Is that as sharp as it could be? Because clearly I'm showing the ad to people, but they're not clicking. All right. Then if I'm getting clicks, but then I'm not getting sales, then I look at my sales page. I look at the book description. I look at the price. I look at the cover. There's something off there. I will even look at the first few pages of the book to figure out where people might be tapping out. And then you can start to make decisions, as Dave and Jess both said, start to make decisions on whether that's working. And then ultimately, if I do decide to choose something, then I'll run more ads and see if it works. But the beautiful thing about Amazon ads is there's no problem you can't solve. It's just a matter of knowing what the problem is and how to get there. And if anything, if maybe there's some good that can come out of this, maybe publishers will allow authors to change their book descriptions a little more frequently, because that's one of the things that you want to be able to change. If it's not good, maybe some good will come out of this, and they'll make it a little bit easier to do that. Because honestly, that's probably the number one thing you can change that won't cost you a thing, that can make a huge difference. And sometimes it's just the first line of the book description. You can change that, and that will make all the difference.
Yeah, I think that's you have seconds or less than
exactly
on a page to get a reader to read more and continue to engage. So that first line, making sure it's on point, is critical.
So I would say everything that they said, for sure. Really great info. To expound a little bit on the Amazon A+ content, I love that we can do that now. We can do it ourselves on our indie books, but the traditional publisher, oftentimes you have to ask your publicist to do that. And if you're confused about what that is, because the name doesn't have anything to do with what it is, but if you look at a book on Amazon and you open it up and you start scrolling down and there's something really cool in the center, like some extra pictures, some extra quotes, that's what your Amazon A+ content is. To expound on that a little bit, you want to make sure that your author page is also as high quality. You want to make sure that you've got a great author photo in there. That's maybe not just a selfie that you took with somebody's hair right next to you, that you cut somebody out. You want to make sure that I have bought books just on reading the author's bio, because their bio is just so clever and cute and funny. And you're like, oh, this person must be hilarious because their bio is so funny. I think their book is probably going to be funny. So controlling all of that you can, and you can do some of that on your Amazon author page, to make sure that that's all. We have a little saying, I'm from the Midwest, that you can't sell an ugly pig. So you want to make sure that everything is really, that you've done all of your best in all of the different places to make it the top quality product that people just can't not, that they can't click away from, because they just have to have it.
Yeah, I would say like all other panelists mentioned are all very good points. I just want to mention that first of all, I think we just need to be aware that Amazon ads take a longer time to normalize all these data. So what you're seeing currently, or even the data you see for the past week, might now be accurate. So if you look back a month or 2 months, and like probably you'll see a completely different result. So you don't need to get anxious right away. And then if you're seeing your ads not really performing well, do utilize the search term section to see which are the keywords for the product that's having the highest spend without conversion. So we add them into active targeting. And by contrast, that if you're seeing something you haven't tried yet, but it's shown up in the search term with good conversion, you can add that into your as a new target. And on top of that, A+ content definitely will have great influence. Yeah.
I'm so grateful that none of you said just give up and abandon the effort. Thank you. You've all been so generous with your insights and wisdom. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today, and both to the panelists and those of you who are still sticking around after all of that terminology. I would say that folks will definitely want to listen to this again, especially if you haven't ever looked at that Amazon ad platform. I think watching this again after you've maybe poked around and tried to search for keywords, a lot of this will have additional insight and clarity when you review it. So I'm glad the Authors Guild has recorded it. Okay, I'm going to turn things back over to Johnny for the final housekeeping.
Thank you. Yes, for any follow-up questions, I can be reached at support@authorsguild.org. I want to say thanks to Jess, Michael, Dave, Yu-Ting, and of course, Jane. This was a great information. I hope everyone feels well equipped before walking into an ad spend now. And we have a little bit of summer programming coming up on marketing that you might be interested in, like building an email newsletter list, the book tour post-pandemic, and other topics like that. So please don't ignore our emails while you're on vacation this summer. Thanks again to everyone, and I wish you all the best.